Spark. Ecological.
My name's Sean Sutherland and I'm co-founder of A Plastic Planet.
So we'll start from the beginning. Why are people so obsessed with plastics?
I think really plastic is like the gateway to everything else that perhaps we have been doing wrong to our planet. So things like climate crisis, climate change, carbon, all of these things are a bit overwhelming for people. Whereas plastic, there are no plastic deniers out there. We can see that through our addiction, the devastation we have caused to the oceans, there's plastic everywhere, it's in our air, it's everywhere now. And it's something so tangible and visible, and there's no one else to blame. So it's the one thing that we can absolutely impact, and we have to very quickly.
And it's not just in our seas, it's actually in our homes, isn't it?
It's everywhere. And obviously the Lucy Siegel program last night on ITV was very interesting because it was an expose on just how plastic is absolutely omnipresent. We're breathing it in, we're drinking it in, we're eating it. So this is why the scientists are now getting very concerned about the amount of plastic that we have in ourselves, in human bodies.
So it's essentially microplastics. Can you describe what they actually are?
Yes, if you imagine plastic as a material, it never disappears. It just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So every piece of plastic ever made, unless it's been burnt and that creates toxic gases, still exists on the planet today. And it doesn't so much break down, it breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces. So that's how you eventually get microplastics. And even smaller than that, you have nanoplastics. And nanoplastics are the ones that are shed from your clothing. So if you're wearing a synthetic jumper or a fleece, it's made out of a polyester material, which is actually plastic. So even our clothing is shedding these little microfibers and nanofibers of plastic into the air. So that's exactly what microplastics are. And one of the interesting things about microplastics that concerns scientists is not just the toxic chemicals that we use to make plastic, but it's also the fact that these tiny little microplastics have jaggedy edges and they attract and hold many other toxins. So they're almost like little poison pills in themselves.
So what are the actual health issues of microplastic and nanoplastics?
So within plastic, we use certain chemicals like bisphenols, BPA, many people might have heard of BPA or seen products saying BPA free, phthalates, many other toxic chemicals that are actually listed on the European schedule, the register of toxic chemicals of extreme concern. So when these get into our bodies, these chemicals are known to be endocrine disruptors. And they can also have quite a severe impact on our immune system, on our immune cells. So this is a lot of the new science that is now coming out so how can this impact us? What impact can this have on the health of our bodies, on how we can fight cancers? How can it impact our fertility levels, heart disease, cognitive disorders, autoimmune disease? These are the ailments, the conditions that scientists are very worried that our prevalence of plastic, using it for every single material as we do, is actually going to be impacting our health.
And one of the main things that I really struggle to get my head around is we're actually breathing in plastics.
Yes. So I know one of the scientists at King's College actually, she was asked in a talk that we were doing together, somebody said to her, do you still eat fish? Now you know about microplastics in fish. And she said, yes, I do. And I'll tell you why. I know that when the fish is just resting on the plate, more micro and nanoplastics will land on that fish than are probably even inside it. So you may have seen on the program last night that Lucy had her whole house tested for plastic. So we know that we're breathing it in now, and there are many cancer specialists who are very concerned about the impact that this could have going into the very depths of our lungs.
So what can people do to actually protect themselves?
Well, what we do at A Plastic Planet is very simple. We are all about proactive, pro-business change. So we exist to ignite and inspire the world to turn off the plastic tap. So we absolutely believe that the world doesn't need more plastic. So anything that we can do to encourage brands and businesses that are perhaps going plastic free now, that's what we, the shopping public, can do. So definitely, of course, never have a plastic bottle of water or a plastic bottle of drink. Really trying to avoid that because we know that there is leaching of chemicals into that liquid. Whenever you can, use a refillable. Refill, reuse. These are the 2 R's that are most important now. Try and use a reusable coffee cup, perhaps, so that it's just a slight shift in our behavior. But then more than that, what we need to do is support the brands that are not selling us food and drink wrapped in plastic. Because the more successful we make those brands, the faster industry will change.
Do you think deep down that people will change and we do have a chance to turn this around? Do you think deep down that we can achieve something now?
I do. I'm extremely positive because I think only a few years ago, we didn't know. We were just careering along, living this disposable, wasteful, throwaway lifestyle, becoming incredibly dependent on this miracle material plastic and using it for the wrong things. But now we know we will never unknow, we can change. But I think we have to be very clear. This is not a shopper problem. This is not the public at large's problem. This is an industry problem. And it needs to change at industry level because you and I, we buy what we're sold. And if we're sold something different, we will simply buy it. We're very adaptable. So that's where it needs to change, is at the production level. And that's where we work at A Plastic Planet. How can we bring more solutions, more materials, more innovation into industry so that it can change faster?
Because as you said before, I'm a student and students are all about ease. Now, ease normally comes for the cheapest thing and students are obviously go towards the cheapest thing. But the cheapest thing is normally wrapped in plastic, a takeaway box, stationery. What do you think that students can do?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And some of it will be simple things like when you say stationery, how many biros do we buy? And that's definitely a single-use item. So it's thinking, let's use pencils more often. Let's have a fountain pen. Doesn't necessarily have to cost more money. And then when you're getting takeaways, request for the takeaway company. Just say to them, Deliveroo, whoever you're using, how can I have my delivery plastic free? The more people that ask, the faster change will happen. So we think we've got no power, and actually we have tremendous power. We have to vote with our wallets. And it's so wrong, I agree with you, it's so wrong that often the cheapest things, the more affordable things, are the ones that are more wrapped in plastic. But what I love is the change that's happening at supermarket level. It's Iceland Foods, it's Budgens, it's the Co-op, it's the more affordable supermarkets are actually taking the biggest strides.
It's just